In just 42 seconds, one of Hollywood's most revered actresses would unleash a verbal assault so devastating it would leave Britain's beloved morning show host speechless and scrambling for damage control. What started as seemingly innocent questions about AI and filmmaking quickly devolved into a character assassination that exposed the ugly truth behind the cozy morning television facade. The tension was palpable from the moment Meryl Streep walked onto the Lorraine set last night. Her usual warm demeanor had been replaced by something colder, more calculating. Lorraine Kelly, perched in her signature bright outfit, flashed that practiced smile she'd perfected over decades of morning television. But even she couldn't mask the underlying current of hostility that seemed to follow Streep across the studio floor. "Meryl, wonderful to have you here," Lorraine began, her Scottish accent lilting with false enthusiasm. "Now, I have to ask about your recent comments regarding artificial intelligence in Hollywood. Some people are saying you've been rather dramatic about the whole thing." The word dramatic hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Streep's eyes narrowed imperceptibly, her fingers tightening around the coffee mug she'd been offered moments before. "Dramatic?" she repeated, her voice carrying that distinctive cadence that had captivated audiences for decades. "I suppose standing up for human artistry is dramatic in your world, Lorraine." The smile on Kelly's face faltered for just a fraction of a second before snapping back into place. "Well, I mean, technology is advancing, isn't it? Surely there's room for both human creativity and technological innovation. Not everything has to be so black and white." "Black and white?" Streep leaned forward slightly, her composure beginning to crack. "Tell me, Lorraine, when was the last time you created something? When did you last pour your soul into a piece of art that meant something to you?" The question caught Kelly off guard. She shifted uncomfortably in her chair, that perpetual grin becoming more strained by the second. Well, I present this show every morning. I bring joy and information to millions of viewers." "You read from a teleprompter," Streep cut in, her voice sharp as a blade. "You follow scripts written by others, smile on cue, and pretend to care about celebrities you've never met. That's not creation. That's performance art at its most hollow." The studio audience, which had been murmuring appreciatively at Streep's presence, fell deadly silent. Even the camera operators seemed to freeze, unsure whether they should continue rolling or cut away from what was rapidly becoming a bloodbath. Kelly's Scottish accent became more pronounced as her composure began to slip. "Now hold on just a minute, Meryl. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've interviewed everyone from politicians to pop stars, and I take pride in my work." "Pride?" Streep's laugh was bitter, cutting through the studio air like broken glass. "You take pride in ambushing guests with gotcha questions? In twisting their words for cheap headlines? In pretending to be their friend while sharpening the knife?" "I don't know what you're talking about," Kelly protested, but her voice lacked conviction. The mask was slipping, and everyone in the studio could see it. "Oh, but you do," Streep continued, warming to her theme. "I've watched your show, Lorraine. I've seen how you operate. That sweet motherly persona you've cultivated. It's all an act, isn't it? Behind that smile is someone who feeds off other people's misfortunes, who builds a career on manufactured drama and fake intimacy." The color was draining from Kelly's face now. Her usual bouncy demeanor had evaporated entirely, replaced by something altogether more desperate. "Meryl, I think we should perhaps move on to talking about your new film." "No." The single word cracked like a whip. "We're not moving on. You brought up AI. You made your little dig about me being dramatic. So let's talk about what's really dramatic here. What's dramatic is the systematic destruction of authentic human expression in favor of cheap, manufactured content. What's dramatic is people like you pretending to be journalists when you're really just carnival barkers in designer suits." Kelly's hands were trembling now, her carefully applied makeup unable to hide the flush of anger and embarrassment creeping up her neck. "You have no right to speak to me like this. This is my show, and I won't be insulted by some pretentious Hollywood actress who thinks she's better than everyone else." The words hung in the air like a gauntlet thrown down. Streep's eyes flashed with something dangerous, and for a moment, the entire studio held its breath. The friendly morning chat show atmosphere had evaporated completely, replaced by something raw and visceral that had the crew members glancing nervously at each other. "Pretentious?" Streep's voice was quiet now, but somehow more menacing than when she'd been raising it. You want to see pretentious, Lorraine? Pretentious is building an entire career on fake sincerity. Pretentious is acting like you're Britain's sweetheart while stabbing guests in the back the moment they show any real vulnerability. Kelly was visibly shaking now, her composure completely shattered. "Get security," she hissed to someone off camera, though her microphone picked up every word. "I want her removed from my set." But Streep wasn't finished. Not even close. "Security?" Streep's voice rose to a level that made everyone in the studio flinch. "You're calling security because I'm telling the truth? Because I'm not playing along with your pathetic charade?" She stood up abruptly, towering over Kelly, who seemed to shrink deeper into her pastel-colored chair. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. The moment someone challenges your manufactured reality, you run crying for help." The studio had descended into chaos. Producers were frantically gesturing from behind cameras. The floor manager was speaking rapidly into his headset, and the audience sat frozen in their seats, unsure whether they were witnessing television history or a complete meltdown. But Streep commanded the space now, her decades of stage presence transforming the morning show set into her personal theater. "You want to know what's really dramatic, Lorraine?" Streep continued, her voice carrying to every corner of the studio. "It's watching someone like you pretend to champion women's causes while you spend your career tearing down other women. How many actresses have sat in this very chair while you smiled and nodded, only to have you slice them to pieces the moment they showed any genuine emotion?" Kelly's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. That's not. I support women. I've always supported women in the industry." "Bullshit." The profanity hit the morning television audience like a slap. "You support the idea of women when it serves your narrative. But the moment a woman shows real strength, real conviction, real passion, you label her difficult, dramatic, pretentious. You're everything that's wrong with this industry wrapped up in a sparkly morning show package." The security guards had arrived but hesitated at the edge of the set, clearly unsure how to handle the situation. This wasn't some drunk celebrity or political activist. This was Meryl fucking Streep, and she was eviscerating Britain's sweetheart on live television. Kelly finally found her voice, though it cracked with barely contained rage. "How dare you come onto my show and attack me like this? I've done nothing but treat you with respect and professionalism." "Respect?" Streep's laugh was sharp and bitter. "You called me dramatic before I'd even had a chance to speak. You dismissed my concerns about artificial intelligence, concerns shared by thousands of artists worldwide, as if they were the ravings of some aging prima donna. That's your idea of respect?" "I was asking legitimate questions," Kelly shot back, her Scottish accent now thick with anger. "It's called journalism." "Journalism?" Streep's eyes blazed with fury. "Is that what you call this dog and pony show? Real journalism requires integrity, Lorraine. It requires the courage to ask difficult questions and the wisdom to listen to the answers. What you do is entertainment masquerading as news, gossip disguised as information." The two women were now locked in a battle of wills that had nothing to do with AI or filmmaking, and everything to do with decades of accumulated resentment. Kelly represented everything Streep despised about modern media: the reduction of complex issues to sound bites, the prioritization of ratings over truth, the weaponization of charm against substance. "You don't know anything about my work," Kelly snarled, her carefully cultivated persona completely shattered now. "You sit in your ivory tower making movies that 3 people see, thinking you're saving the world with your art. Meanwhile, I'm here every morning bringing real stories to real people." "Real stories?" Streep's voice dripped with contempt. "Celebrity gossip and fashion tips? Cooking segments and weather updates? You wouldn't recognize a real story if it bit you on your spray-tanned ass." The studio audience gasped audibly. Several people had their phones out, recording what was clearly going to be the most talked-about television moment of the year. The producers were frantically signaling to cut to commercial, but the camera operators seemed transfixed by the carnage unfolding before them. Kelly rose from her chair now, her entire body trembling with rage. "Get out! Get the fuck out of my studio!" "Oh, now we're getting somewhere," Streep said, her voice deadly calm. "There's the real Lorraine Kelly. Not the saccharine morning show host, but the bitter, vindictive woman who can't stand being challenged by her intellectual superiors." "Intellectual superiors?" Kelly's voice was a shriek now. You're an actress. You play pretend for a living. You read other people's words and pretend to be other people. That doesn't make you intellectually superior to anyone. At least I acknowledge that I'm playing a role. Streep shot back. You've been playing the same character for so long you've forgotten who you really are underneath all that fake sincerity and manufactured warmth. You're a fraud, Lorraine. A complete and utter fraud. The security guards finally moved forward, but Streep held up a hand that stopped them in their tracks. Even trained security personnel weren't prepared to physically manhandle one of the most respected actresses in the world without explicit orders. You want me gone? Streep's voice carried a dangerous edge that made everyone in the studio take a step back. Fine, but not before I tell your audience exactly what kind of person they've been inviting into their homes every morning for the past 3 decades. The studio fell into an eerie silence. Even the producers had stopped their frantic gesturing, realizing they were witnessing something that would define both women's careers. Streep turned toward the cameras, addressing the audience directly with the commanding presence that had earned her 3 Academy Awards. Ladies and gentlemen watching at home, she began, her voice steady and clear despite the chaos surrounding her. You deserve to know the truth about this woman you've trusted with your morning routines. Lorraine Kelly built her career on a lie. The lie that she cares about you, about the stories she tells, about anything other than her own ratings and relevance. Stop the cameras! Kelly screamed at the crew, but none of them moved. They were paralyzed by the magnitude of what they were witnessing. Behind that smile, Streep continued, pointing directly at Kelly, is someone who has spent decades exploiting people's vulnerabilities for entertainment. I've spoken to dozens of your former guests, Lorraine. They all tell the same story, how you made them feel safe and comfortable before the cameras rolled, then ambushed them with questions designed to humiliate and destroy. Kelly's face had gone from red to purple. Those are lies. Vicious, career-destroying lies. Are they? Streep's eyebrows arched with theatrical precision. Tell them about Sarah Mitchell, the young actress who came on your show 3 years ago to talk about her charity work. Remember how you blindsided her with questions about her eating disorder? How you reduced her to tears on live television for ratings? The blood drained from Kelly's face. Several audience members gasped, recognizing the name and remembering the infamous interview. Or what about David Chen, the director who trusted you enough to discuss his struggles with depression, only to have you twist his words into a headline about Hollywood's mental health crisis? His career never recovered from your betrayal. That's enough. Kelly lunged forward as if to physically stop Streep, but the security guards finally intervened, not to remove the actress, but to restrain the show's host. Streep stepped back, her composure unshakable. The truth hurts, doesn't it, Lorraine? 30 years of destroying lives for breakfast television ratings, and you can't handle 5 minutes of someone treating you the way you've treated countless others. Kelly struggled against the security guard's grip. You bitch! You sanctimonious, self-righteous bitch! I made careers, I gave people platforms, I helped more celebrities than I ever hurt. You helped yourself, Streep replied coldly. Every tear you extracted, every confession you manipulated, every moment of genuine human vulnerability you exploited. It was all about building the brand of Lorraine Kelly. Morning television's sweetheart. The studio erupted into chaos as Kelly finally broke free from the guards. Get out! Get the hell out of my studio before I have you arrested for slander! Streep gathered her purse with theatrical calm, never breaking eye contact with Kelly. The truth isn't slander, Lorraine, and the beautiful thing about truth is that it has a way of coming out eventually. Your viewers aren't stupid. They'll start connecting the dots, remembering all those interviews that left them feeling uncomfortable, all those guests who never appeared again after you finished with them. Security! Remove her now! Kelly's voice cracked with desperation, but Streep was already walking toward the exit, her heels clicking against the studio floor with measured precision. She paused at the edge of the set, turning back to address the cameras one final time. To anyone watching who has ever been hurt by this woman's fake journalism and manufactured empathy, you're not alone. The entertainment industry needs to do better, and it starts with holding people like Lorraine Kelly accountable for the damage they've done in the name of ratings. Kelly made one last desperate attempt to salvage the situation. Don't listen to her. She's having some kind of breakdown. This is what happens when aging actresses can't handle irrelevance. Streep's smile was cold and calculating. Irrelevance? I just gave you the highest ratings your show has seen in years. The irony is delicious. You'll profit from the very confrontation that exposed your true nature. That's the saddest part about people like you, Lorraine. You can't even recognize your own moral bankruptcy. With that, Meryl Streep walked off the set, leaving behind a studio in absolute chaos, and a host whose carefully constructed image lay in ruins. The cameras continued rolling as Kelly stood alone, surrounded by her crew who now looked at her with a mixture of shock and disappointment. "Cut to commercial," Kelly whispered, her voice barely audible. "Cut to fucking commercial." But it was too late. The damage was done. In the space of 10 minutes, one of Britain's most beloved television personalities had been systematically dismantled by Hollywood royalty, and millions of viewers had witnessed every brutal second. The cozy world of morning television would never look quite the same again, and Lorraine Kelly's reign as Britain's sweetheart was effectively over. As Streep's car pulled away from the studio, she looked back once at the building that housed so many broken dreams and manufactured moments. She had come to discuss artificial intelligence in filmmaking, but instead had delivered a master class in authentic human expression, raw, unfiltered, and devastatingly real.